Back from the AEC, Brooke.
David, we've actually got the Australian Green Senator Scott Ludlam speaking now live, so let's take viewers there.
And I guess the first thing I would say is that the result should not, the AEC should put off declaration of the result until those votes can be found. While that investigation is underway, I think it would be inappropriate for that result to be declared. We know the AEC does have a bit of time up its sleeve and that it's not legally obliged to declare immediately. The second thing I guess I would say is that we do feel completely justified in calling the recount in the first place. The fact is we found not 14 votes, which was all the critical margin was. We found hundreds. It may be as high as 1,000 votes. Above the line, below the line, misplaced, put on the wrong pile, not in large batches, but 2s and 3s here and there. That's what our scrutineers have told us. We had no way of knowing, and we still don't, whether it would change the outcome of the election, but we do know that the recount itself was justified. I'm happy to take comments and questions.
You said you agreed with Clive Palmer earlier. Do you agree that the AEC has been completely incompetent after this latest fiasco?
No, I don't, and I think some of Mr Palmer's statements have actually been completely over the top. There's clearly an element of human error involved. You're counting 1.3 million pieces of paper with a large workforce. But I think what's happened in this case needs to be rectified before the result's declared, and on that I do agree with him.
So you don't think fraud's involved?
I don't think
Fraud's involved?
Look, it's obviously too early to say, but on that I will say if Mr Kilty unearths any evidence at all of wrongdoing, the police should be immediately called in.
If such a vast mistake is being made in just for the Senate, are you afraid that this is more widespread? This could have happened in even in the lower house, or?
Well, we know that it did. 1,000 votes were found on the shelf at Indi. That actually changed the outcome of the election there. That seat was heading in a different direction. So I
completely incompetent kind of cut it.
No, you don't need to put words in my mouth. I'll say what I think. I don't think the Electoral Commission is completely incompetent. I think they're running one of the better systems anywhere in the world, and it's important that we all have faith in it. That's why, for example, we have processes of review, processes of appeal, but it's going to, I think, shake people's confidence, A, if these votes aren't turned up, and B, if they go ahead and declare the results. That effectively disenfranchises more than 1,300 people.
Do you believe that electronic voting may have assist, I guess, more modern technology in future elections would avoid this error?
The problem with electronic voting is then you're left with no physical record of what the elected did. I'm not sure how you would conduct a recount of an electronic ballot. And I'm also aware that in the United States, where in some jurisdictions electronic voting does occur, the system has been patchy and actually prone to fraud. So it's not, I think we have to, in this case, I think we have to make sure that people have confidence in the system as we have it. That means going back and finding those votes. I suspect what we will see is that we've set a precedent here in terms of Senate ballot recounts. I hope that does lead to a bit of soul searching about how to conduct elections, both in House and Senate seats, in a manner that people can have confidence in.
Can there be any integrity in the result without a new election?
Yeah, look, I believe there can. We were justified in our call for a recount. If that batch of votes is found, then I think everybody could have a pretty high confidence that will be the most scrutinised Senate ballot in history.
Just back to electoral reform, do you think there is need for reform in the way the election's held? I mean, Clive Palmer's spoken about, instead of using pencils, for instance, using pens, he's spoken about when you have your name marked off, you can have it marked off in several different booths. I mean, this is a pretty big deal. I mean, you played it down a little bit, but I mean...
no, this has been going for nearly 2 months, so I'm not trying to play it down, believe me. Everybody else has
But that's it.
On.
I mean, if after 2 months we still can't get an outcome, do you think that this is, the catalyst for change?
I am interested in the process and the debate of electoral reform that's at last taken root. I don't think exchanging pencils for pens is going to help anybody. I think what we do need to do is take a look at this complex system of backroom preference negotiations. We need to put that power back into the hands of voters. We've had a proposal for that on the table since 2010. If that gets proper scrutiny now, we actually put that power back in the hands of voters to vote above the line in the Senate, then that will have been worth all of these shenanigans.
Are you willing to speculate a little bit further on why this has happened to this particular incident?
I wish I knew enough on which to base speculation, but this has come out of the blue. To my knowledge, the Commission was preparing to announce the election result probably on Monday, and that they were preparing to close out the main part of the count tonight. So this has come as something of a shock to all of us.
What about the people? Do you have confidence in the Electoral Commissioner, and should he go?
Should he go? Yes, I do have confidence in the Electoral Commissioner. I think they've behaved appropriately. They've put this into the public domain. They've announced their investigation, but I'm saying what would, I think, shake the faith of people is if they go ahead and declare, well, this is still unresolved.
And what about the appointment of a private citizen Kilty? Is it good enough, or should they refer it to an authority to investigate like the AIB?
Yeah, look, I think that's where I was heading before. At the first sign of any misconduct, wrongdoing or fraud, this needs to be referred immediately to the police.
And what if the votes can't be found?
Well, I guess you'd have to take it one step at a time. There's a High Court precedent from 1906, which is complex, but a batch of votes was set fire to in that instance, and they eventually said, take of the recount what you can, and of those original votes, you use the first count and assume they were correctly counted. Now, this is something that I guess is going to take a little bit of time to resolve. What I'm hoping is that that batch of votes is found, and look, if it's not in the immediate term, then we'll have to take this a step at a time.
Do you think if they're not found, there should be another election?
That's potentially possible, but I don't think it's worth declaring making a determination at that point. I'm certainly hoping that those votes are found. They all appear to be from the same area.
Will the Greens formally lodge a petition to the Court of Disputed Return seeking a fresh statewide ballot?
Will we immediately do that? No, I think that's too soon to judge that.
Are there any other seats that you're concerned about now that this has happened? Are you going to sort of undertake any effort to sort of look at
No, there were no seats. Certainly, my focus obviously is on Western Australia, and there are no seats around the country, to my knowledge, where the margin was so finely balanced. So it's not 14 Green votes, obviously, that made the difference here. About 2/3 of the way through the Senate count, there's a critical exclusion where 14 votes is the margin. I'm not aware of any other ballot around the country where the margin was that fine. So this is the one, obviously. I'm not planning on opening up any other cans of worms. I'm just trying to look after Western Australia.
Can you just explain the steps from here? Where do we go from here?
I'm actually going to need to take some advice, but my understanding is that the formal part of the count will conclude today or tomorrow in Western Australia, that the Electoral Commission, at least as per their statement, intends to make their declaration on Monday. And that is what I'm saying. They need to actually hold their horses. Hold off on that. If they do, and at least give their investigation time to run its course, then maybe this will be resolved much more simply. But after that, actually, we're in uncharted waters. You have to go back a very long time to find any precedent.